Welcome to the Power of Pink and the session with the wonderful ladies online. Those of you that have been part of this before know the spirit of the collab. The collab is really, it's our gift to you from an LRMG perspective. And you're welcome to grab a cup of coffee, or if you are in a wine zone time zone, or if you're not in a wine zone time zone, grab a glass of wine. If you want, sit back and relax. I'll pull a different quote today from Katherine Johnson, the lady from, well, follow the movie or listen to me. Go through the movie or watch the movie Hidden Figures about the ladies who actually did the calculations to put the men in space and bring them back safely. Bridget and I were debating whether that was a good thing or not. So, yeah. But she said know how to learn and then want to learn. So that's the spirit of the collabs. We also, you know, I'm very clear about this. It's not a sales pitch from an LRMG perspective. It's certainly one where it's a gift to you guys and girls. Love engagement. The LRMG folks manage the chats and cheer on in the chat. So thanks, yes, it is an excellent movie. Questions, gifts, emojis are appreciated. We do record the session. If you want a recording, just reach out to us and we'll send it through to you. In terms of today, this is what we're talking about, the power of pink. And then just to give you a quick glimpse into what we're planning in the future. So still the hybrid working. Quite a nice one that we're looking at doing with the impactful guys on cyber skills and cybersecurity skills and automation and other stuff that's very, very technical. So I don't quite understand that when I talk to them. And then I see Rose and Jill are on from Abundance at Work, so Future Intelligence, hopefully. Thinking about the metaverse, I know I pump that ride every time we meet, but certainly I had a brief with Armand and the team the other day, and that's going to be fabulous. And then looking at employee value proposition. So these are the collabs coming up. But today it is about these wonderful ladies and our session talking about the power of pink. And it's no coincidence that this session is the last working hour of Women's Month. And Bridget and I were talking earlier, we are activists, so we like to be right edgy in terms of that. So yeah, fabulous to have you on the session, and thank you so much. If I can ask you all to introduce yourself, let's start with Thato. Let's start with you, then Nansa, then Jill, and then Bridge. Just introduce yourselves, 1 or 2 minutes. Tell us about yourself, and yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Thato Sopeng. I am a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter of somebody, I'm a sister. So I wear many hats, but my current hat with Sasol is a CIO of the energy business. And there I really look after technology for the energy business at Sasol. It's an honor and a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. I really appreciate the time to be part of this collab and really just engage and connect on things that are dear to my heart. I'm a great advocate of developing women. And one of my mottos, which is sort of loosely stolen, I guess, is that we lift as we climb, that we lift others because somebody at some stage took a chance on me as well. So I'm a great advocate of developing women and really taking a strong focus on developing women in my environment. I'm also a member of the board of Wired for Women. You may be aware of it. It's an IT web forum. So there we're also working a lot with how do we empower young women in technology. So that's one of the things I'm really proud of. So yeah, thanks. I look forward to the collaboration this afternoon.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much. We lift as we climb. Thank you so much. Nomsa, is it still bonjour, Nomsa? Or are you back in South Africa?
It's now Sunny Bonani. I'm back in South Africa.
Sunny Bonani. Okay.
So Sunny Bonani, I'm back in South Africa. Very happy to be back. It was great to be away as well. So I'm feeling very refreshed, straight off a very necessary 2-week break. Looking forward to this. So I'm coming hot off the plane straight into this, basically. But looking forward to it. So similar to Thato, a mom of 2 little boys who keep me very, very busy. And that's why the long leave is always necessary.
Yeah.
Also a sister and a daughter. Professionally, I'm currently at Old Mutual as the IT executive, specifically looking after human capital technology. I think that's been my niche and my passion for the past many years. And coincidentally, where I first met LRMG, when we were still trying to figure out what's, you know, the employee experience and learning looks like when it's digitally enabled many moons ago. We've come a long way since then, I think, as a country and as an industry, as far as technology-enabled learning employee experience is concerned. So, yeah, I'm very passionate about the topic that we're going to speak about. I think as I was sharing with Linda and the ladies in our briefing call on Monday, that, you know, I've walked many different journeys in this career, had a lot of great sponsors, a lot of great partners, and worked with amazing teams, all of which have led me to probably stay in this field. Oh, I see some familiar names popping up on screen. So I have to make sure that I don't lie. So they'll keep me honest. But very passionate about what we're going to talk about, particularly passionate about seeing more women in this field. I think a lot of us here will attest to sometimes in these technology conferences, you know, you sometimes one of only a handful of women. So hopefully that picture changes soon. And if it doesn't change, then we are not doing our job right, to my fellow panelists as well. So also very passionate about having more women in the driving seats from a technology point of view. And I'm looking forward to the conversation today. Thank you for the invite.
Thanks, Nansa, and thanks for making the effort. Jill, from your side?
If I can find the unmute button. I guess, I mean, I'm Jill Dyers. I'd like to think that I'm Jenny from the block. I hail from the Cape Flats. I go by the name of Auntie Jill. I don't have any kids of my own. But I resonate with Auntie Jill, if that says anything. I'm currently the non-executive chairman for the Institute of Bankers. My day job at the moment, I work for Old Mutual Finance in the capacity of head of customer experience. I've been in banking really all my life. I was raised in banking. Today I've actually invited two of my biggest sponsors on whose shoulders I stood to be able to represent the empowerment of women. I'm passionate about empowerment. And you know, my motto is empowerment to the inclusion of all others. So I hope that, you know, whilst I am, you know, standing for women power, I think that's really what I've lived my own life by. I hope to make a contribution to the discussion and be blessed by the contribution of others this afternoon. So Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you for that. And Bridget, the co-host for today, the reluctant co-host who, yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all well. It's beautiful Wednesday, beautiful cold Wednesday afternoon. Am I stuck, Linda?
Yes, but we can hear you.
I would just check in because I'm in KZN at the moment. So yes, I would like to take a leaf out of Shaka Khan's song, I'm Every Woman, if some of you know that, because that's what I believe I am. So I do believe I'm every woman, and I believe all women are every woman. And on a little slightly serious note, I currently lead the strategic relationship executive team for LRMG. It's a crucial cog of our strategy. We believe firmly in that strategic relationships, building trust, nurturing for trust is what sets us apart. And as a woman and as a natural nurturer, I live into that on a daily. Similar to the other ladies, I'm very passionate about women, but I'm very passionate about allyship. I'm really passionate about getting everyone involved in terms of inclusivity, but also in it together. And for us to not wait for invitations, but make the invitations available to have a seat at the table. So that's me.
Stunning, Bridge, and I look forward to the conversation with you. So just as an interest as well, I have 4 sisters, and so also a family of women, and yeah, I think that, you know, this collaboration and the cabal and the unity that women bring is just something that, yeah, I'm not sure that men quite get it, but we won't go on a men bashing cruise. We'll just talk about it. So essentially this power of Pink started from a conversation we had about 6 weeks ago with Skillsoft, who's a partner of LRMG, and they surfaced a report that they had done across the globe, granted not so much in Africa, but essentially what this report was saying, that through the pandemic and through, yes, I am a daddy's girl, thanks, honey, but through the pandemic, women's careers genuinely took a back seat, you know, and to the fact in the report, they say it took 136, it's going to take 136 years for us to close this gender gap worldwide. And so we thought it would be topical to talk about the impact of pandemic on women's careers. Tati, you were talking, Nomsa, you were talking, you guys have changed organizations through the pandemic. So question to you, Thato, is have you seen that in reality? You know, pandemic, impact on women's careers, people who are now focusing more on being housewives, on homeschooling their children, and then now coming back to the workplace where they might have to start again. Have you seen that in the organization? Have you seen it in your experience from your side? And what have you seen that you can kind of share as insights for people saying, well, yeah, you know, this is what we've seen, but this is what we're doing about it. So maybe from your side, Thato, and then Nomsa will come to you after that.
Yeah, Jill, I mean, certainly the pandemic has had an impact on not only women, but I'm seeing that it's across the board, actually, because all of a sudden now you also found the gentleman playing the part of being the mother at home as well, because now kids were also housebound, right? So we're finding that a lot more. Obviously what families have had to do is play that dual role of how do we raise families, how do we be in the space together, raising our families. What we've started to do from a Sasol perspective is just really taking pains to understand people's individual circumstances. So as we were trying to invoke a hybrid back to office and working from home model, we needed to understand some of the practicalities, because all of a sudden you realize people no longer had au pairs that they used to have to drive kids around, because now they used to drive the kid around and quickly dash back to a Teams meeting. So those are some of just the practical things where we've had to really take cognizant of people's circumstances changing, and how do we allow that integration back into work in a seamless way without really impacting them negatively. Has it worked? Not 100%. We're still working through it, absolutely. But it's taken us time to get to be in conversation, listen to what people are saying, and not just, one size fits all, come back to the office. It really took us a lot of having conversations to understand what's practical for people to start to really get back into a integrated or hybrid way of working. So yeah, it's really impacted not only women, but the men as well.
Yeah, thank you. And Nomsa, from your side, when you were talking the other day about changing organizations through the pandemic as well.
Yeah, so it was certainly a different onboarding experience. And, being in tech, you'd think that I would have embraced it much easier because, tech is what we do. But it's definitely different, I think, because we were all forced into it, and you're having to join an organization and not see anybody in the flesh until now, when we've recently joined. Oh, now I see myself in big screen. What did you do? So I think it's an interesting dynamic where you joined and you're basically meeting people virtually. You're inheriting a huge team that you won't meet in the flesh up until very recently. So interesting onboarding dynamics. But what I did find, though, which was a gift of the pandemic, and as they say, never waste a crisis, is what I did find is the conversations with our male colleagues were now different. So previously, I think we all know as moms, the females were the ones always asking to leave early so you can be home for the school pickup, so you can be home to do dinner, so you can be home for homework. Now daddy and husbands are now always there because home is work. So husbands, for some, it was the first time in a long time that they were in the cold front of what actually happens behind the scenes at home, what happens to get that maths mark, through what happens to get to all the sporting activities, because they were there. So you find that in the workplace, the conversations we're having, even in leadership with our male colleagues, we're very different. You know, where it used to be women only talking about the struggles of home and balancing everything, fathers were there. They certainly had a bigger sense of appreciation for their female counterparts. But similarly, for their colleagues and their direct reports, they were more sympathetic because they had to play that role for 2 years while we were working at home. So I certainly did see some gift in it. There's a different shift in appreciation, I think, as far as the role of the woman, both at home and in the workplace as well.
And Thato, I can see you shaking your head there, nodding your head. Was it a similar experience to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it resonates. Just joining virtually a huge organization the size of Sasol really was something else. Like as Nansa said, the dynamics were quite different. In a normal place, you would have probably done the meet and greets face to face, really getting to know everybody. Now you're doing it virtually. You can't read the body languages of people you're meeting. And some you're only literally meeting now, a year and 4 months in the organization. You're like, hey, I'm only meeting you in person for the first time. So it's been quite interesting, but certainly it's going to take time to build the necessary networks the way we've joined the organization, whereas previously would have been a lot easier. I'm finding it's taking a lot longer.
And virtually building those networks as well is the challenge as well, you know, because you can't read body language and that. And Jill, from your side, you know, the Institute of Bankers, it must have been quite an interesting adjustment, you know, an organization like that now, the constituents are different. What did you find?
Well, I resigned from ABSA in May 2021, and so I'm also a pandemic
Gosh,
baby.
you're all pandemic babies.
You know,
Okay.
I've just coined that term, pandemic baby. So Nomsa and Thato, that's the going. Yeah, I think you know, I've been with the Institute of Bankers for 4 years now, and you know, I mean, we surprised ourselves as a board that we came out of this thing still having an institute. You know, the Institute of Bankers has been around since 1904. It's over 100 years old, and we really felt that we were going to be the team that's going to close the doors, and that is going to sit at the CIPC. And you know, I was just reflecting on it. You know, we stuck with it. We had to reposition our proposition fundamentally because people couldn't afford to pay fees, you know, to a professional body. And so, you know, today we have grown more than 150%, you know, in terms of membership, you know, and it's just a profound success story, the Institute, for where it is today and where it has come from. And I've been privileged to sit at that at home. And so there are many gifts of the pandemic because it also demonstrated our resilience, right? To stick and push through. And we are now reaping the benefits, of course, after very hard work. The banking industry, of course, probably the most stable of the lot. In South Africa, you know, we are privileged to have a very mature banking industry. I come from it. I'm very proud of it. You know, so for our colleagues that was in that space was really about, will the banking world ever go back to normal? And we held a lot of that together as an institute with the members that we had. So that was the biggest challenge for us, you know, to allay people's fears, and they were looking to us to give them direction. And today's, I think, will be a good conversation for us to have around that resilience.
Yeah, great, thank you. And Bridge, from your side, you know, you interact with a lot of LRMG clients, you know, and your perspective, pandemic, you know, what was the market sentiment there?
Well, it changed and shifted, to be honest. And there's a similar ingredient that I found came out of every industry, all verticals. And I think in the context of women itself, just a bit to Joel and Nomsa and what Tati's saying, is it was a bit of a mix of a lot. Some women came out of that quite forthright, quite like phoenixes. Almost feeling like, hey, I've gone through this, I can be all things, and no longer that tolerant, let's say, or subservient of certain things. Mr. Manager, maybe I don't really need you because I actually think I am empowered through what I'm doing. And so there's been kind of like this little shift in terms of the energy and how people feel. And it goes both ways. I also feel and see in a lot of our client spaces that a lot of the women, particularly that came out of pandemic and into the financial, mining, FCMG sectors, are feeling like, you know what, we don't have to wait to be asked for an invitation. I'm going to go and find skills that are critical for my organization, and I'm going to go empower myself with that. I'm not waiting for a women empowerment program on the KPI, which is sometimes a tick box item if we're going to be real about that. I'm not waiting for that invitation. I'm going to go past my own destiny, yeah? And when the opportunity arises, I'm going to put my hand up very high for that opportunity. I'm finding a lot of that in my conversations, in my one-on-one conversations, and also in terms of the tolerance level of what women seem to be window dressing in organization from leadership and empowerment programs and what's actually real. So yeah, lots going on.
No, lots going on, and I think your reflection probably reflects across the three ladies, sitting next to you. And Bridge, when we were briefing it, and this is your co-host role kicking in now, Bridge. When we were briefing you feel very strongly about allyship, and maybe perspectives on that, and feedback into the panel and ask views on that allyship, that I know you feel very, very strongly about. So I'm going to hand that little piece over to you, Bridget.
So I think maybe for context and to move into ask the ladies what their views are on this as well, is our CEO, Ricky Robinson, shared with us in the month of women. It was actually an article that was directed at our men on allyship, right? And the article was called Men Stop Calling Yourself Allies, Act Like One, and it was by Brad Johnson and David Smith. Happy to share it. Really interesting, one of the best articles I've read in a while. But that got me thinking in the opposite around, here's the article about allyship, but as women, are we allies? Do we find allies within ourselves? Are we allies to other women? Are we allies to men? Are we ourselves allies? Because if you look at the word for me, right, it's not a noun. This is a verb. This is an action word. And you'll know, Linda, the activism in me is coming out now. So from an action perspective, it's about with, not for. That's what allyship is for me. And I think it also perpetuates a lot of autonomy and less dependence, to my point earlier, on us taking accountability for ourselves. But what I want to maybe just poke a bit with the ladies on the panel, and maybe Jill, I'm going to start with you. This advocacy around women and empowerment and allyship, you've worked across APSA, you're now in L Mutual, but just looking at the Institute of Bankers, what ignited me was the fact that that board is predominantly women in an industry that represents predominantly men. So I would be interested to know, in your view, what you believe needs to still be done in the sector around allyship in women. If we can talk in the concept of the banking industry, and I'd like to ask the same question to Nansa and the same question to Thato.
No, I appreciate Jill.
Yeah, I mean, allyship for me is your ability to surround yourself with people that can walk a distance with you and without telling you the things you want to hear in life. It's a choice who you choose to be your ally and who you want to be an ally to. In my personal experience, I've chosen the difficult ones that, and when you are in the position of an ally or you are providing allyship, it's a controversial role to hold. It's not a friendship. You can sometimes move away from some allies and walk towards some allies. When, as the chairman of the board, I do lead the board in who the board at the end of the day supports, and the board relies on my integrity and on my judgment of character of who we bring along. So we depend on the directors to bring also allies on board. And sometimes you would think that these are friends that we bring on board, but these are people that we bring on board. It happened to be women because those are the people that raise their hands to be true allies to the institute, and so it's a choice you make. It's a platform you step on, and a very uncomfortable place that you put yourself. So nobody, wants to be a part of something that's nearly failing, but that in there is the challenge. So it's the logic. This is, 1 + 1 does not equal 2 versus 1 + 1 equals 5. So the choice of the individuals, the women that we have, are, multiplier thinkers, are the ones who want to stick to the path. And that's why, the ones who joined have stayed for some time, inclusive of myself. And wanting to be the ally, and one of the key attributes of an ally, it's somebody that gives of themselves unconditionally, and that is, I think, what we as women, we don't apply the logic, we do apply the art of what is possible at a very deep and intuitive level. So it's not by design. These are the women that put up their hands for a very difficult task. And there are some men. I mean, I don't want to, put my colleagues off, but that's what I'm saying. And so that should also tell us something about the role that women have played in society and the world at large.
Great, thanks. Nansa, from your side?
Yes, I think I agree with what both Jill and Bridget have said, and Farah, I think, on the chat put something that I was actually going to talk about, Sado. So something that can necessarily be taught. If it's not in you and if it's not in your nature, you're going to find it very difficult to be an ally and create allies. So you'll find that people will use excuses like, I need more people that look like me, sound like me to build allies, And I think that's a common one. People seem to think that my ally needs to look like me, feel like me, talk like me. And I think that's a misconception we need to break. Otherwise, a lot of females won't have allies, to be honest, in the positions that matter, because we still have a long way to go. So I think it's an authentic thing. It's nothing that can be taught, because if it is something that's forced and your organization is forcing you to do it, you will quickly be found out. You'll find it very hard to navigate that and to show up as that for people. So certainly it has to come from within you, and you have to have seen the value as well too, right? In order to be able to pay it forward. I certainly have, I think, in my career. A lot of what's gotten me where I am has been through allies, through sponsorships, and they have not looked like me. A lot of the time, I think I can count in one hand the number of allies I have that look like me. The rest don't necessarily do. And because of the authenticity within which it came, from which it came, and from which I also hopefully portray it, it becomes that much easier to do and easier to pay it forward. Certainly very important. And I think it's once again a matter of not waiting for somebody to create the space for you or for somebody to extend the hand to you, but you actually do something about it. And you finding that common purpose with a different person that you're all moving towards and building the necessary relationships and networks. Certainly, an organization that's got strong allyship, that's very diverse as well, is definitely better off than an organization that's very much in a silo mentality.
Yeah. And Thato, from your side?
After that, what can I say? Jill and Nansa said it all. But I do like some of the insights and the points of view that are coming through from all the ladies. The authenticity of allyship has to be something that's within you, has to be something that you're passionate about. I said earlier in the week that I probably found being an ally for me is a lot easier, and I do it naturally. And also creating those allies, I think just the universe opens up when it's something you do naturally, and naturally you also find the allies. And also, the importance of not selecting people that are like you. The whole point is to challenge you, develop you as an individual. So don't go looking for friends in your allies, as Jill says. Look for people who are actually going to make you a little bit uncomfortable, who are going to grow you and just, get you out of your comfort zone a little bit. And so for me, it's something that we have to intentionally do. I think the article that you shared spoke about intentional allyship. And so it's something that we have to really intentionally do, both being an ally and looking for allies, especially those uncomfortable ones that are really going to grow us, because that's where the power lies.
Yeah. And when you spoke about your is it Y for Women, the board that you're on?
Yeah, wired.
Oh,
for women.
wired. Okay. How does that play out in an allyship? Because it's an industry community. Is it, you know, do you have similar views from a perspective there?
Yeah, so it's an industry community, like-minded ladies. I guess we're all in technology, we're CROs. And so the idea is, how do we grow either internally or externally, young ladies looking to grow within technology. And so we either take part in some of those initiatives that are very directed at developing their technical skills, and internally in our organizations as well, we're driving specific skills development initiatives that we're doing, or mentorship circles, or whatever it is that allows us to grow ladies. So,
So it's a deliberate approach from an industry perspective, because I mean, I think one of the questions, certainly a question that I have, is around, you know, empowerment and transformation with building skills internally in organizations, and that external element as well is getting, you know, girls at school interested, particularly in IT and engineering and that. And it is a challenge, you know. So maybe, Jill, you know, question to you around the IOB and looking at empowerment and transformation in an industry that, you know, to be fair, is dominated by women. I mean, by men. Listen to me, I wish. In 136 years' time, it's a slip. You know, what's your views on that? And then Nansa and Thato, to your side, what are you guys doing in Old Mutual and Sasol that you can potentially share with the group? You know, little game changer things that someone on the call would pick up and go, wow, that's a good idea. You know, maybe I can apply it myself. But Jill, from your side, IOB, transformation, empowerment?
Yeah, I think, you know, we as an institute, we designed to accept people once they have a cognate qualification, and a cognate qualification means that you've at least gone for NQF, you know, diploma 6, 7. You know, we are registered, industry body with the South African with SAQA. So you know, to have just had that as your designation framework was very minimalistic. So one of the key things that we are trying to drive as an institute is to look at vocational studies. We are looking at workplace skills plan, you know, because I think, I mean, much of the focus around the advancement of the skill we leave to the higher education, we leave to parents to encourage daughters, girls, you know, but still, you know, the boys become the doctors and the girls become the nurses, you know. So we tell a story that, you know, as mothers, we're raising the children, we play predominantly the home carer, but yet society is still producing, you know, even in this day and age, girls that still veer towards, you know, the human resource, the arts, etc. And we push the boys go into the engineering, and so those stats are real. So as an institute, we get what is in the society, what comes off the universities. So something that we are going to do is that we want to create a concept of professionalities. Okay. So a banker is a banker is a banker. And if I told you to close your eyes and you think of a banker, you would not look like me necessarily. It would look like yes. So we don't associate that. Yet we are in the financial services industry. So we need to create a place where we, you know, partner with individuals and put into their hands the tools that help them learn on the job, because that's where you really, you know, start to demonstrate and put tools in the hands of individuals, women, men, and so that somebody like a Nansa can become a chartered banker as an IT professional, because an IT professional in banking is not an IT professional in the aviation. You know, it's two different people. It's a different professionality. So we want to disrupt the world by instituting a banking standard, almost a green jacket, if you like. You know, and by that supporting and having, of course, an agenda along the lines of our South African demographics, and that would mean, you know, that we would prioritize women. We would prioritize African women, Indian women, and colored women, previously disadvantaged men. So as an institute, we cannot appear. So it's about giving access to those individuals into the banking space and following their careers. So I'm not sure whether that kind of sets the scene for the IOB.
It definitely sets the scene, and your passion is infectious, which is fabulous. So good luck on your journey, and we will all, and I know there's some bankers on the call, we will watch you and walk through that brick wall with you there as a sisterhood. Nansa, from your side, you know, you've got experiences across multiple organizations.
So coincidentally today, we actually have an IT career day at our Cape Town office at Mutual Park in Pinetown. What was interesting for me, though, is so the auditorium was buzzing, you know, with excitement. And we actually intentionally did it with high school students because we actually realized that getting them at university is way too late. So we invited a few high schools from Cape Town. Auditorium was buzzing with excitement. The only thing that I noticed, which is still a bit of a disappointment, is that majority were male. It's called an IT career day. Open invite. Auditorium is full of guys, you know, boy kids. So I was left, and I'm a mom of boys. So I know the conversations I have with my boys. And then I thought, are we having different conversations with our daughters? Because it was very interesting. And I mean, these are kids in high school, you know. But what we also did differently today, which I think worked very well, is we let our grads facilitate it. So we have a grad intake every year, and we gave this to them as a project. So we said to them, right, you've been at Old Mutual for a year now. You've stayed, you've chosen to stay. So there must be something we're doing right. Now go and tell the guys in high school why it's cool to have a career in IT and why they should consider an organization like Old Mutual, you know, with the idea that we get them now, we can get them through varsity, and they'd hopefully get these brilliant minds in our organization. So I think that worked well because you had young people talking to young people. I mean, on the agenda, we had a TikTok item as well, you know, which speaks to the high school generation. But it was very interesting to still note the dynamic that most of the guys in the auditorium, most of the people, if you just look at the videos and everything, were still boy children. So I think there's still a lot of work, and this is at high school. So you can just imagine.
Maybe next time they must bring a sister with them. You know, bring a girl to work.
Bring a girl,
you know, your ticket to entry is if you've got a girl in tow and it's not your girlfriend.
It's not your girlfriend, I was about to say. But yeah, so those are some of the ways. And I think the grads are also finding it to be empowering. So you're also getting the graduates to feel like leaders and empowered even at a very early age, in a very early stage of their career, which hopefully will then lead to us seeing a lot more transformation.
Bear the fruits in 5 or 6 years' time.
Absolutely.
And Thato, from your side, Bridge, sorry, Bridge. Okay, sorry, Bridge. Go for it.
Sorry, Linz. Before Thato goes, what's very interesting about what both Jill and Nomsa are saying is we're talking to indirectly to structure and skills, but what we're not talking about, actually, the elephant in the room is, are we designing these power structures in organizations to support the diversity and the enablement of women empowerment? Because the status quo continues, Liz, and we probably will go for the next 137 years.
Oh, my Lord.
If some of us HR folk are not designing organizational effectiveness through that power struggles to enable that career day, Nomsa, you mentioned, so that when they arrive and land in the organization, the structures are enabled for the diversity and for women empowerment in the organization, to your point, Joel, about creating the space for women in banking. So I wanted to maybe just make that comment, and maybe with that leading to Thato to what she feels about that as well.
136 years is going to take us, right? In fact, what Nomsa said, it's very shortly, we're going to be embarking on what we call TechnoX, which is very similar in terms of a career day within Sasol. But Sasol being an engineering organization, it's a lot broader than just IT. It's broadly to give exposure to graduates across the different engineering capabilities within Sasol. And obviously IT would be one of the things that we're showcasing there. And so we're looking forward to that. We're busy in the planning stages of it. It's about to kick off. So yeah. But on the one thing that I really particularly wanted to share was from a transformation perspective, what we're actively looking at is we're finding that more and more we're constantly bringing the big players from a supply chain perspective, procurement when we procure the services. So it's usually the big consulting houses that we're bringing. So now we're wanting to shift that a little bit from an IT perspective to say, can we start to actively develop? So one of the things that we need is cybersecurity skills, right? So we're saying we really want to start actively developing a startup that's working with cybersecurity. We really want to make sure that if we're going to have a piece of work around cybersecurity, so for instance, we're trying to develop a cyber security operations center. So we would like that they support that operations center. And so we're taking active steps to development through a 12-month program, taking them through the Microsoft E5 technologies, and just making sure that we'll be able to embed them in the organization once we've trained them. And so also that startup owns the support contract, while the bigger consulting houses maybe owns some other consulting work. So we're really wanting to start sharing that piece of the pie with the smaller startups. And that's how, and obviously they have to be women-owned cybersecurity startups.
Yes,
right?
yes. Wow, that's, I mean, you're getting lots of hand claps. And Thuli, I see Thuli's got her hand up, so maybe let's just chat. Thuli, go for it. Ask your question.
Hello, sorry. My name is Thuli from Discam. I just want
Hello,
to.
Thuli
I know
from
that.
Discam.
Hi. I don't want to derail the conversation, but I'm going back to what Nansa said about the expo that they did where only boy child showed up. And I know that is derailing from the conversation because we're talking about IT, but doesn't that speak to the way we raise our children in the sense that right now in South Africa we're facing gender-based violence and we are teaching them to be cautious, and as a result you might find that it's not that it's the lack of interest but it's the fear. I'm just putting that on the table.
Lovely contribution. Lovely contribution and very valid. Ladies' thoughts.
Yeah, and I
about
think
a
that's
safe space, maybe. Hey.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was alluding to say, as because I mean there were girls there. It was both guys. It was an open invite, but an overwhelming majority was boys, and that's why I said, I had to reflect as a parent at different conversations happening, or is what they're exposed to maybe different, because that was very interesting for me to see today in this day and age where we're expecting, especially this generation, at least in high school, to be a lot more open-minded about opportunities, a lot less scared than what our parents would have been, So yeah, it's still interesting that dynamic is there. And yeah, it's I'm hoping that a lot of the ladies that didn't come is because they're venturing into entrepreneurship, women bosses. So maybe that's the conversation we're having with our daughters, be your own boss, So yeah, but it's just it's interesting that in 2022, in high school, we still have these dynamics. So what more in organizations?
Yeah, but maybe it's because we say go to school and come back home. It's not safe out there. That's what I'm thinking right now. And I have a daughter. Fortunately, she's at varsity now, but I am thinking at high school when she's telling me, let's say I'm living in a township and then the expo is in town. I'm like, no, you're not going to town. I'm at work. After school, you come back home. And I think as organizations is also a question of like when we do these adverts and campaigns, we make sure that the schools also send the letter to the parents and how we're going to keep them safe, because for me it's just that it could be more. I'm just thinking.
No, it's very common. Jill, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I think we would not do this thing justice from a South African perspective if we did not put on the burning platform gender-based violence and the role that it has played in developing the mindsets of the women we have in the businesses today, you know, and the women, that's the children, the girl child that's being raised, even the boy child. So you know, whilst when we were talking now, if we had to put ourselves in Australia, that wouldn't be a unique dynamic in the empowerment of women. You know what I'm trying to say? So women come through that institution of family. Women come through the institution of not feeling safe at school. So in the organizations, we are dealing from a culture perspective with issues of psychological safety. You know, we've brought psychological safety into our culture surveys as human resource. One need to ask why, right? And what do we do with the insights that we get? Do we delve a bit deeper, whether it's the women that are highest spiked in psychological safety or men? You know, how do we slice the insights so that we know that we have a greater line of sight to having the right impact and for the right change to you know, to come across? And I mean, we need another few sessions like this to deal with the point that Tuli is putting on the table. But I do want to recognize that as a, you know, as a product myself of, you know, of violence, of coming out of, you know, we have to own that. We have to own that so that we can tell these girls it's okay to be yourself.
Yes. And possibly giving, you know, the more obvious kind of things is education in terms of parents, safety comments, those, you know, safety elements, those types of things. You know, it's so difficult because we're all okay in our careers. You know, we've gone through that piece, and it's almost getting to a place where we need to say to people, you're going to be okay as well. You know, and say to girls, you're going to be okay if you choose a career in IT. So we kind of getting to the end of the session, and I think, you know, Jill, to your point, we really could have gone on for a long time. But one of the things I wanted to wrap up was, you know, key message that you'd like to land from a woman empowerment, you know, stories. Nomsa, if you had two girls, what would you tell them? You know, what would you tell somebody who is in a grade 11 or grade 12 and really unsure where they're going career-wise, a girl? What would you tell that person? Where would you tell them to start? Where would you tell them to look? You know, so maybe Bridge, you want to pick up this component of it, and then lead into the rest of the panelists just to say, firstly, thank you very much, but also just your insights. You know, it's such an incredibly topical conversation, this, and it could have gone anywhere. You know, and Tuli, thank you for your contribution. But Bridge, from your side?
Yeah, I think it's been a broad, diverse conversation. I think we've touched many, many topics. And so it does allow us to lend ourselves to the opportunity for many more of these conversations, because to Linda's point, we can go in different directions. But I mean, I would like to maybe understand from each of you, really diverse, beautiful women, from your perspective, in terms of sharing what you've shared today, in terms of your journeys and the pilgrimages that you've been on, what would be your departing point if you had a rearview mirror that you could tell your younger self? Or if you could tell some young women that may be in the audience that are still starting their journey out and embarking on the journey, what kind of advocacy could you place in their hearts this afternoon?
I'll go first so that I don't have pressure. So I'll speak the other two very well-versed ladies. So I think for me, it's really showing up with excellence in whatever role you're given. So that's been a huge belief of mine. I lead with that, whatever role I'm in. And your work will speak for itself. You know, then it's no longer a question of, but can she do it? You know, it's no longer a gender discussion. It's no longer a race discussion. Whatever you have. I mean, I started all the way from waitressing, you know, but I did waitressing so excellently that it opened up the next door. And then I did that role excellently. And then here we are. So I think it's just really taking whatever's given to you at that moment, making the most of it. And then obviously finding your ways through the studies, through the allies, very important. and just networking as well. I think what's also important, which has for me been a gift of the pandemic, and I think also why we've been able to navigate, or why I personally was able to also navigate around the career and the different organizations, is that the new world of work has presented a bigger working space, right? You are no longer confined to your city, you're no longer confined to your province, and you can pivot careers because suddenly the skills we are needing now look a lot different than what they looked like, even 2 years ago. I've certainly seen it in our space. So I think it's taking advantage of what's available, and the fact that now really the world is truly your oyster. That used to be just a saying. It now really is. I mean, we work virtually. A lot of us connecting here are sitting in different provinces, even the panel here. We're sitting in different provinces, yet here we are. A few years ago, Linda, you would have flown me down to wherever you are.
For the
session.
Oh, yes. Next time, no.
So I think just the world is your oyster, virtual ways of work, the pandemic has really opened up. I think it's a lot more open than it was. And it's really a question of grab those opportunities and how excellently you show up for those opportunities.
Love it. Beautiful invitation. And you're speaking so to discipline, because one cannot have excellence without discipline. So that's a beautiful, it resonates well with, I think, many people. Thank you, Nansa. Let's hear from you, Thato.
Yeah, I opened up the mic. I was like, let me just go. So, so for me, honestly, it's what I'll probably tell my younger self is allow yourself to really learn, experience learning in different formats. Because I think sometimes one becomes so myopic in terms of just you're in IT, you've always been in IT, but I think you need to open yourself up to a wider spectrum of learning and really building yourself in different ways. Somebody said in the chat, learn about financial management. And some of these things you're really never taught at school, right? So really take time, find those bite-sized learning things that you can do with whatever topic, and really expose yourself to different thought leadership, different experiences, engage with different people, diverse backgrounds, allies, whatever. Just find learning and ways and opportunities to learn from different things. I like podcasts, and I'm finding I'm learning about investing in Bitcoins and this and that. There's a myriad of things. There's a myriad of things that one must just immerse yourself in learning different things. And I think that will keep you relevant as well. So I think for me, it's just about learning, keep learning.
Thank you. Thanks, Thato. I'll be interested to hear the Bitcoin story, but maybe another time. Jill, from your side?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you ride a wave, and the wave can carry you a long way until that wave dissipates. And that's kind of how life is at a physiological level. You go, you grow, and at some point it tapers down. My biggest, my gift I want to leave with people, I'm successful. I've come to a pinnacle of my career where I had everything and I also still had nothing. And I think the lesson for me is, I have not necessarily been an active participant in my career. In other words, I picked up all the stompies, the learnings, would have set me up. What I want to leave you with is that you need to participate in your own life. And not all of it will get you to the CEO position, but it will get you to the place where you need to be and that you're going to be so comfortable. And I think sometimes when we want to empower, we create the perception you want to be me. You have to be the best you. I was not the best me with everything that I had. I'm starting to become the best me. So I really want to put that challenge out to you to be your own ally, to be your best ally, and not to outsource that to any person, not a husband, not a child, but participate actively in where you are going, where you are, and things will happen for you. Things will take its course for you, and you'll self-actualize in your own special way. And it does not necessarily have to be a position in an organization. And that's powerful, that you can own, because I can't start up something quickly. We can't build it quick enough. We can't sustain it long enough, but we can sustain you. So I hope I want to leave you with a participant of your own destiny. Thank you, ladies.
Amen, sister. Amen. That's all I can say. Brilliant. Thank you. Bridge, any closing remarks from your side? Jill, that's just so profound. And ladies, thank you again. You know, the gift just your gift of time today has been brilliant. And if you have a look at the chats, you know, I hope someone's got some small piece of inspiration from the session, and we'll track you down, Nansa, wherever you are in Paris or wherever you might be. And it's just been such a beautiful pleasure. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Bridge, over to you for last final words, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure. What more can I say after all of that? But really just heartfelt gratitude and thanks to all of you ladies who've been willing to come into the space and to share your views and your thoughts and your journeys and your just your hearts. And I really feel honored and privileged that I had the opportunity to get to know you all a bit better. So thank you. And thank you so much for everyone who took the time, the hour on a Wednesday afternoon to step into the space. It's a beautiful way for us to end Women's Month, Women's Year, Women's Century. Amen. So, yes, thanks.
Yeah, stunning. Thank you.